The Russian army does not control any neighborhood of Kupyansk, but sabotage and reconnaissance activity in the city remains high. Russian barrier troops are forcing soldiers to cross the river under threat of being shot. The Institute for the Study of War, ISW, reports. Russian troops attacked in Sumy and Kursk regions, particularly north of the city of Sumy near Alexeyevka and northeast near Yunakovka. A Russian Milblogger affiliated with Russia's northern group of forces claimed that the command of Russia's 44th Army Corps prioritized providing material amenities, including internet, heating and others, to 2 forward command posts of its 30th Motorized Rifle Regiment in the forests of Sumy region, and it is doing so at the expense of Russian soldiers in other forward positions, in particular by forcing Russian soldiers to spend their low salaries on heating supplies. This leads to conflict between soldiers and commanders. Sometimes soldiers refuse to participate in combat because of this. Milblogger also complained that the forward positions of Russian troops are not sufficiently fortified to protect them from AFU strikes. Russian troops continued offensive operations in the north of Kharkiv region, but no confirmed progress was made. A Russian Milblogger claimed that Russian troops were advancing towards Sinelnikovo to cut off Ukrainian troops in Volchansk from supply routes. Another Russian Milblogger claimed that units of the Russian Air and Space Forces, VKS, had struck Ukrainian air defense systems in Liptsy and Ukrainian drone operators in Bolshiye Prokhody, north of Kharkiv, with Kh-38 air-to-ground missiles. Russian forces continued offensive operations in the Kupyansk direction, but did not advance. The commander of a Ukrainian drone regiment operating in the Kupyansk direction said on September the 25th that the AFU had stopped the advance of Russian forces in Kupyansk and prevented their advance beyond the northwestern outskirts of the city. Russian troops do not control any neighborhood of Kupyansk, but sabotage and reconnaissance activity in the city remains high. Russian troops continue to disguise themselves as civilians or Ukrainian soldiers to secretly set up observation posts. They have also stepped up efforts to cross the western right bank of the Oskol River after Ukrainian troops destroyed a pipeline that Russian troops used to amass on the northern outskirts of Kupyansk in mid-September 2025. A commander said that Russian barrier troops force soldiers to cross the river under threat of being shot. Russian Milblogger denied reports that Russian troops had practically captured Kupyansk and said Russian troops were providing false reports to the Russian Defense Ministry. Russian troops have recently advanced in the Liman direction. Speaker of Ukraine's 3rd Army Corps, Alexander Borodin, said on September the 25th that Russian troops are still not carrying out heavy equipment assaults in the Liman direction due to significant equipment losses, attacking mostly with small infantry groups consisting of untrained personnel who receive step-by-step orders from their commanders. Russian troops continued offensive operations in the Seversk direction and in the Konstantinovka-Druskivka tactical direction, but no confirmed progress was made, as well as in the Pokrovsk direction.
At least 24 people wearing masks and some carrying pickaxes and handguns smashed jewelry cases and made off with bags full of items during a robbery at a San Francisco Bay Area jewelry store, authorities said. According to Associated Press, video from the Monday robbery shows a stream of people wearing masks covering their entire faces entering the jewelry store and then using the pickaxes to crack the glass cases and clear them out. The shop's doors locked after the robbers were inside because of security measures put in place after the store was previously robbed, and at least one of the people fired a handgun at the door to get out, police said. No one was injured, according to police. Messages seeking more information were left Thursday with authorities. The robbers then fled to cars waiting in a nearby lot, the San Ramon Police Department said. Officers tracked the vehicles from the air and were able to arrest several suspects, according to police. In a statement posted to social media, Heller Jewelers expressed gratitude for an outpouring of kindness since the robbery and said it planned to reopen on Saturday.
The Foreign Intelligence Service of Russia reported that NATO units are deployed in Romania near the Moldovan border, and a group of troops from France and Great Britain has already arrived in Odessa to intimidate Transnistria. According to the Foreign Intelligence Service, the alliance is concentrating troops near Moldova's borders and preparing provocations under the pretext of introducing Western troops into the Republic. This could happen as early as after the parliamentary elections in Moldova on September the 28th. European officials fear that the gross falsification of the vote results being prepared by Brussels and Chisinau will force desperate Moldovan citizens to take to the streets to defend their rights, the Foreign Intelligence Service report stated. Then, as Russian intelligence suggests, at the request of President Maya Sandu, armed forces of European states will be introduced into the Republic. If forceful intervention isn't required, incidents involving Russian troops in the region are planned for November to create a pretext for an invasion. The period surrounding the elections to the Supreme Council of the PMR on November the 30th is being considered as a possible time frame. Intelligence reports. According to the SVR, European countries intend to demonstrate courage and decisiveness with this move, given the stalled plans to deploy troops of the coalition of the willing in Ukraine. Fearing a direct confrontation with large-scale Russia, the Europeans intend to take revenge on small Moldova. Self-assertion at the expense of the weak has always been an integral part of European colonialism, the SVR writes. On September the 4th, French President Emmanuel Macron, following a meeting of the Coalition of the Willing, announced that representatives of 26 countries had expressed their willingness to send their troops to Ukraine within the framework of security guarantees, and several more were considering their position on this issue. On September the 10th, Russian Presidential Press Secretary Dmitry Peskov noted that countries planning to send their troops to Ukraine after the conflict ends do not understand or do not want to understand the dire consequences of such actions. On September the 17th, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov stated that so-called peacekeepers on Ukrainian territory would in fact be occupation forces and legitimate targets for Russian military forces.